humility. I've heard it said that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Real humility is beautiful, and it is essential to a life well lived. I'm convinced that it's the key to happiness, to confidence, and to loving others genuinely. I'm also convinced that it is a discipline God calls us to in order that we may live fuller, more vibrant lives of faith. Humility is thinking of yourself less, and this results in an attitude of outward focus. In thinking about humility, I've realized with some embarrassment that at times I have made myself unnecessarily miserable because in general my focus was on myself, my needs, my feelings, my situations, my life. I think we all go through times of feeling lost or down or in the dark, and sometimes it seems without a solid reason. But every time that I felt like that, it's been looking outside myself that pulled me out of it. For just a bit, not focusing on how I felt, and instead fixing my eyes on God and everything He does for us. He loves us, He pursues us, He saves us. He gives us grace and peace and room to breathe. To be sure, we must take care of ourselves physically, emotionally, and spiritually, but we are doomed the second we forget that life is not about us. It's about knowing God and loving the people around us the best that we can. Life is not a solitary occupation. Life is a thing we do with other people, and we can't forget that. This is humility, thinking less about yourself, more about the people around you, more about the God who loves you. As I said before, I'm convinced that humility is essential to a life well lived. When we adopt this attitude, thinking less often of ourselves and more often of God and of other people, we are transformed into happier, more confident, more loving creatures. We are happier because our eyes are open to the blessings around us, and we realize just how much we have to be grateful for. Gratitude takes humility a step further. In humility, we turn our eyes away from ourselves, and in gratitude, we recognize the beauty and the goodness of what our eyes see. And as you may have already observed, grateful people are happy people. But what about confidence? Have you ever noticed that most of us tend to be drawn to confident people? I said earlier that I think humility makes us confident, which probably seems a bit backwards, especially in the context of confidence as self-security or feeling good about yourself. But it turns out that real confidence is a sense of security and purpose that comes from being invested in something beyond yourself. Confidence derives from the awareness that there is more to life than proving to the world that we are valuable because we are likable, friendly, talented, attractive, funny, intelligent. And doesn't that sound suspiciously close to humility? I think humility and confidence go hand in hand, just like their opposites, pride and insecurity. Beth Moore writes on the subject, "Pride lives on the defense against anyone and anything that tries to subtract from its self-sustained worth. Confidence, on the other hand, is driven by the certainty of God-given identity. Humility is a crucial component in true security. It is the heart of the great paradox. We find our lives when we lose them to something larger." So one last important thing about humility. Without it, I don't think that we can love genuinely. Too often we ask ourselves, am I a loving person? When the more important thing to ask is, what can I do to love the people around me? And even more importantly, just going out and doing exactly that. Instead of hyper-focusing and trying so hard to turn ourselves into the loving people we are supposed to be, humility tells us to just look up and look around at the world and love the people in it, to take action. In this way, humility stops us from loving others just to create an image of what great people we are. C.S. Lewis writes in Mere Christianity, "Do not waste time bothering whether you love your neighbor. Act as if you did. When you are behaving as if you love someone, you will presently come to love him. There is indeed one exception. If you do him a good turn, not to please God and obey the law of love, but to show what a fine, forgiving chap you are, you will probably be disappointed. People are not fools. They have a very quick eye for anything like showing off or patronage." So, humility. At its heart, the idea is simple. Think about myself less. Be conscious of myself less. Be conscious of others more. Be conscious of God's goodness as often as possible. This has been my challenge to myself recently. It's not an easy attitude gratitude to develop, much less to maintain, but it is something worth working towards and praying for. Thank you.